So we'll start our session by paying our obeisances to E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And today we are continuing with the first chapter since last time. So last week we went through this split of chapter 1, wherein we covered the first 3 topics of Dhritarashtra's inquiry, we saw how Sanjay was given the vision by Vyasadeva, to be at Hastinapur and have the vision to see what is happening in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Dhritarashtra inquiring with him as what are his sons and the sons of Pandu doing on the battlefield. Post that, we saw how this one verse from Dhritarashtra had so many mixed, so many emotions, right? So he was really doubtful of his son's victory. He was also fearful for the influence of the holy place of Kurukshetra. And he was hopeful that, with the influence of that holy place, Kurukshetra, hopefully, Pandavas, think that they step back and, not having the kingdom. So with that, followed by that, we had Duryodhana's diplomacy, as how much of a excellent diplomat he was, looking at the way he addressed, looking at Pandava's army, how he went to Dronacharya, and addressing him, instigating him, reminding him of his relationship with Drupada, and instigating that thing in him that he, even after knowing that Drupad's son Drishtadyumna will be his cause of death, he still taught Drishtadyumna. He gave the training and the education. And then how we saw that, how he, after that, he motivates his team on his side, appreciating all the great warriors he has on his side, and especially Bhishma, that he is nothing can stand in front of him, and how he, even though he's a great warrior, Bhishma as himself, but he has got old and he would need protection. So, and just hearing that from Duryodhana, Bhishma didn't want to, he wanted to cut off Duryodhana's diplomatic conversation, right? And he immediately, went ahead blowing the conch shell. And we also saw how the blowing of the conch shell is described, in Gita, that when the Kaurava side blew it, it was given with an expression of being really thunderous and tumultuous sounds. Whereas on Pandava's side, how it was highlighted that they had transcendental function, and this, once they blew their function, it was heartbreaking for Kauravas. So with this in the background, we will try to cover the rest of the chapter today, from shloka 20 to 46. And with that section being split in chapter 1, we'll first cover the section from verse 20 to 27, which talks about Arjuna observing the army. So after the blowing of conch shells, from here, Sanjaya then focuses on Arjuna and Krishna, the 2 main personalities, the conversation between them, and how Arjuna asks Krishna to place his chariot in, to see. He wanted to see who from Kaurava's side is in there. So he wanted Krishna to take his chariot further. And that we'll start with the first shloka for today, which is the 21st and 22nd. So Arjuna uvacha senayor ubhayor madhye ratham sthapayame achyuta yavad etan nirikshe aham yodhu kaman avasthitam kairmaya saha yodhavyam asmin pranasamudhyame. So like last time, maybe we can go, the participant twice for reading the shloka, the English translation. So, Biswaji, will you be able to?
Sure. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Arjuna said, "O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms."
Right. Thank you. Thank you. So like I said, Arjuna is asking Krishna to place the chariot between both the armies. Now, what in here is, we have highlighted the infallible one here. So Arjuna is addressing Krishna with a particular name. Can anyone say which one is it in this shloka? It's Achyuta. So in the Sanskrit shloka, you see the third line, Ratham Sthapaya Me Achyuta. So in Bhagavad-Gita, we'll see that how Arjuna will address Krishna with many names. Like we see Achyuta here. He also addresses Krishna as Madhava, Madhusudana, Govinda, Janardana, Keshava. So many names. And it's not that these names are, he's calling them just haphazardly or arbitrary. It's more in context with the, it is each name addressed in a specific shloka has a reason, has a connection with that particular verse, and why Arjuna is saying, calling that name in particular, depending on what situation he is in, what confusion he is. And similarly, we also see Krishna calling Arjuna with different names. Like we see most commonly Partha. We also see Dhananjaya, Kaunteya, Budakesha. We'll see these in further shlokas, that even Krishna calls Arjuna answering to his questions, specifically calling out certain names to highlight, what Arjuna is, and in reference to those shlokas. So here, Achyuta. So this means infallible one. Yeah, Arjuna is addressing Krishna with this. So Achyuta means that Krishna never fails in his affection towards his devotees. And it's not only he never fails, he also takes the pleasure to serve his devotees. Yeah. And we'll see this, with his role, what we see in this picture. So why is Arjuna calling Krishna Achyuta? What do we see here in the picture? We see that Krishna is a chariot driver, right? So this is a classic example where we can say that Krishna never fails to serve his devotees, right? And he does it with full pleasure, right? So Krishna was introduced in Bhagavad-Gita as a charioteer. And if we think, of any any movie or any show which we watch, how do we see a person being the main hero being introduced? We see, it is given with all extra effects, right? Killing millions of people at once and having a high level of valor in them. The hero can do something amazing. So every entry of the hero, we see it's something out of the box. And there's always a competition that if, this is the trend set so far, then the new movie coming up will have, better, a new idea which comes up, right? So, but when we see, Krishna, who is the main hero here, how is he entering? He's entering as a charioteer, not killing people, not showing off his valor. There is nothing of that sort. So he is coming in as a chariot driver for his devotee Arjuna, right? And this is a very humble position, right? We all agree that it is not so easy to accept to be a driver. Have you ever seen our boss or our top, person at the company being, agreeing to be a driver. Have you ever seen that? Becoming a driver? No. Let's leave about them. Would we like to be a driver? No, right? So we wouldn't like to be a driver for someone. So that's what is Krishna teaching us, such an humble position that he's showing it, setting an example. Yeah? He doesn't want to introduce himself as a great personality, but a person who wants to help his devotee. And that's why Krishna is called as Bhakti-vatsalya. Yeah, he's ready to do anything for his devotees. And we saw this in those 9 sessions as well, that how he is ever ready to do anything for his devotees. It may be even a charity, a driver, to that extent. And just on this chariot driver thing, does anyone on the call know? We have this battlefield where there's so much of noise around with millions of people in there, right? So how does the person convey the message to the chariot driver as to move in which direction? Does anyone know on this call?
By kicking the chariot driver.
Come again?
By kicking the chariot driver.
Yes. So yes, that's right. Thank you, Akshat Prabhuji. So yes, so the chariot driver is given the direction in the battlefield by touching the person with their leg. So the person who is, like Arjuna, he would have to touch his leg in a specific direction for Krishna to show that you need to move the chariot. So this shows, how humble position has Krishna taken. So, and hence we see that the devotees of Krishna, one of the key qualities of the devotees is, to be humble, to be selfless, and to be more service oriented as well. Yeah. So we saw this in the sessions, how Lord Krishna's Bhakti-vatsalya, right? We saw different examples, just as a reminder that being a charioteer for Arjuna, serving Sudama when Sudama visited Krishna, he washed his feet. Similarly, when Draupadi was in such a need, nobody helped her, within the whole kingdom there. But Krishna came in the form of a sari to support her. And similarly, how he helped the Vrajvasis by lifting the Govardhan hill. So he's a lover for his devotees, right? And he also sets that as an example, right? And that is why he's called as Bhakti-vatsalya. Now, the new picture which is in here is I have added this new one versus to the 9 sessions we had. So does anybody on the call know whose picture is this?
Lord Chaitanya.
Yes, thank you. So it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. So it's Krishna himself in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. And he took this form in the onset of Kali Yuga. So we know that Krishna comes in different avataras. And I know the most propagated ones, when I started into the spirituality as well, I thought they were just those Dashavatara. Right? But in fact, does anybody know how many avataras Krishna has?
Ten, right? Vishnu avatar.
Come
Dasa avatar, right?
Yeah. So that's very, that's what we know, right? So we have a kind of understanding that Krishna has come only in that Dashavatara. But we see in Srimad Bhagavatam that it is clearly mentioned that the number of avataras are innumerable. In fact, it's compared with something like these avataras of Krishna are like waves in the oceans. So can we count the waves in the oceans? No, right? So that's why it's innumerable. And why does Krishna have so many avatars? And we will see this in 4th chapter. And this is the most famous verse as well. I think most of you must have heard when he says that, the famous verse of Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Jnanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyuttanam Adharmasya Tadatman Srijami. And also Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam Dharma Samsthapanarthaya Sambhavani Yudhe. So Krishna comes in different avatars to protect his devotees, and to annihilate the demons, to kill the demons, and also to relish his pastimes, right, with his devotees. He takes so many avatars. And what kind of avatars? So the kind of avatar in which he comes is based on the problem of that particular, time period, the situation, the intelligence level of the living entities, of us, of the population of mankind, what level of intelligence we have. So it all, there are several factors why he takes different avatara at different time points. And we can see, how he took, and he can take any kind of avatar, right? He can, be it an animal, a human. So we saw how he took the avatar of Matsya, being Matsya avatar, the fish incarnation. And what was the purpose of that? Like I said, each avatar has a purpose based on the situation, problem to be addressed. And so Matsya, he took that avatara for, because he had to deep dive into the ocean to get the Vedas. Yeah? Similarly, Kurma avatara, the tortoise, he took it for the Samudra Manthan. Right? So he has a specific, based on what problems we have in this, and what situation it is, he takes an avatar form. And when we talk about these innumerable avataras, these innumerable avataras can be divided into, 6 types. Yeah, and we will go through this in future sessions, but just I'm coming to why, he took the avatar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, so there are 6 types of different avataras, some Purusha Avatara, Guna Avatara, Leela Avatar, Manvantara Avatar, Yuga Avatar, and Shaktavesha. So of all these, like for example, Leela Avatar, we see how he appeared as Vaman Dev, also the Mohini rule, right? So these are his different Leelas, right? And Shaktavesha Avatar, it is like he empowers, Vedavyas is an example, Narad Muniji is an example for Shaktavesha Avatar. They are empowered beings. Similarly, he has something called as Yuga Avatar. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in as a Yuga Avatar. And in form of what? In form of a devotee. So he came in form of devotee to establish because he's a Yuga Avatar, to establish the Yuga Dharma. And can somebody say what is our Yuga Dharma for this Yuga?
Chanting.
Thank you. So yes, so chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So that is our Yuga Dharma. Right? So we see that Krishna in Dwapar Yuga, he appeared, right? And he spoke Bhagavad-Gita. And what is Bhagavad-Gita? It gave us the principles, yeah, and how to practice devotional service, how to practice spirituality. And after the Dwapar Yuga, towards the end of the Dwapar Yuga, Krishna descended back. And, early time point of Kali Yuga, we had Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to practically and personally show how those principles spoken by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita can be done in the form of a devotee. So Krishna knew, right, that in Kali Yuga, the level of intelligence of us will be really low. There will be, so much of adharma, cheating tendency, materialistic life, selfishness. So that's why, looking at the characteristics of the, and the intelligence level of the mankind, we had this Yuga Dharma, which is chanting. Kali Yuga, we do that shloka every time, right? Krate Yadhyayate Vishnu. Yeah. So it clearly says that for Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is chanting. Right? So And this is the most easiest and quickest way, for this yuga, for us to go back to God. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appearance, Krishna appearing as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is another great example of Krishna being a Bhakt Vatsalya, because Krishna personally came to show the principles he spoke on Bhagavad Gita by setting his personal example of how to perform bhakti. Yeah. So he had completely adopted the mood of a devotee in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. So so Lord, Krishna is, we know that Krishna is full of pleasure, right? He's the reservoir of all pleasure. That's what he's called. And what do we personify when it comes to ecstatic love or the highest form of devotee? It is Srimati Radharani. Right? So these two combined, Radharani and Krishna combined form is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he's considered as a combined avatar of Radha and Krishna. So now, for some of you, this may be new, right? So the first thing comes in our mind is, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when we call him as an incarnation, there are few people who challenge this. They see him as a devotee, not Krishna himself. And that's our actually mental status in Kali Yuga, right? We in today's world, we see how we consider someone who is filthy rich, someone who is really powerful, someone who could do a bit of mystic, powers. We see people how they have given status of such living beings, human beings, who have some extra power with them or extra opulence. They are considered to be God. But we need to always remember, that we can only call somebody as an incarnation when they are mentioned in our scriptures. Yeah, our scriptures should authorize it. So we cannot just say, I think this is the way. I think that is the way. It cannot be I think, when it comes to such a grave topic. We have to, this is a vast topic in itself, right? Incarnation. So, but when we speak something, even in these classes, you might have seen, we always have a reference to the scriptures, right? We provide those references. And that should be how it should be authenticated, right? So only when we have something referenced in scriptures, we can consider that as authorized. So on similar grounds, I've just taken the top few references for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from our scriptures, that he is Krishna himself. This is a shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 9th chapter and 38th verse. Yeah. So, Itham Vrig Tirya Grishideva Jasavatairi Lokan Vibhava Visi Hamsi Jagat Pratipan Dharman Mahapurusha Pashi Yuganuvrittam Channaha Kalau Yad Abhavastri Yugostha Satvam. So would anybody like to read the shloka? English translation.
Yeah, I will do that, Mataji. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saint, a demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as a personality of the Godhead, and therefore, or you are known as Triyuga, or the Lord who appears in the three yugs.
Thank you. So it's clearly, I think this is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. So Prahlad Maharaj is stating here clearly that in the age of Kali, you do not assert yourself as the supreme personality of God. That's why you're called as Triyuga. Yeah? And he also mentions in the last line you see there in the Sanskrit shloka, Channaha Kalauyad Abhavas Triyuga. So he will appear as Channa Avatar. What is Channa Avatar? It is hidden. Yeah? So in the role of a devotee of Krishna. Right? Now we'll just move Further to another reference in Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sangopagatparsadam Yagnehi Sankirtana Kayer Yajantihi Sumedasham. So, Hari Krishna ji, will you be able to read the English translation? Okay, maybe we move to Harshit Prabhuji.
No, Mataji, I am ready. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Hari Krishna ji.
Shall I go ahead or? Hello.
Yes, I can read. Can I?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
In the age of Kali, intelligent person perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly signs the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita 11.5.32.
Thank you, Jyoti ji. So, yeah, so this is a shloka from 11th canto of Bhagavatam. So here it is mentioned that the incarnation in the Kali Yuga, yeah, it will be the incarnation of Godhead would be someone who would be constantly singing the name of Krishna. But he is Krishna himself. And he is, this will be congregational chanting, right? So he is accompanied by his associates, companions, and it is confidential. Right? So this shloka also states how in Kali Yuga it is again a Channa avatar, right? A hidden, who would constantly sing the name of Krishna, even though the incarnation is Krishna himself. So, moving to, yeah. So, again, I have just put in few references from different scriptures. Maybe, sorry, I think Hari Krishna ji, you were trying to read it. Would you like to read this English translation here?
I know, Mataji.
Sure, thank you.
O Brahmana, I will deliver all the world, concealing myself in the form of a Lord in Kali Yuga. Narada Purana. And in the first part of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord in the golden complexion will become the husband of Lakshmi. Then he will become a sannyasi and reside near Lord Jagannatha. Garuda Purana. O Narada Muni, I will take birth in the womb of a Saki. I shall save the people who will give up all proper good conduct from the terrible darkness of the age of Kali Yuga. Vamana Purana. In order to engage the people in devotional service and bestow mercy upon them, I will take sannyasa, accepting the name Krishna Chaitanya. Vayu Purana.
Thank you, Hari Krishna ji. So I think it's pretty here. It is more. I think it's direct, right, in Narad Purana, where it says that the Lord is saying that he will come, concealing himself in the form of a devotee. Yeah, and Garuda Purana clearly states it, that the first part of Kali Yuga, Supreme Lord would come in golden complexion. Yeah, and he would take sannyasi later. And then Vaman Purana, we see that how his even mother's name is mentioned, which is Sachimata, right? And he mentions that he shall, save people from this darkness of age of Kali Yuga. And and his name is mentioned in Vayu Purana, which is Krishna Chaitanya. He will be engaging himself in the devotional service, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically, like I said, all the principles spoken by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically demonstrated this devotional practice. And devotional practice in Bhagavad Gita is, highlighted by Krishna very clearly. The principles or the practice in few shlokas. And some of the cream shlokas we have just taken, around 5 shlokas here. The first one is the one which we mentioned. It is the most important shloka of Bhagavad Gita because Krishna has mentioned it twice, once in 9th chapter and once in 18th, and which is Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Now, what does this mean is Krishna is highlighting here that he's saying, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage to me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. Yeah. So, and he promises this. He says that I promise you this because you are my friend. So this is, and we have one more which goes, in 18th chapter as well, where Krishna highlights that abandon all varieties of religious activities. Yeah? So sarva dharman parityaje. Yeah. So abandon all kind of religious practices. Mam ekam sharanam braja. So just surrender unto me. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshashyami masucha. I think it is a little bit easy Sanskrit words here. We can follow this. So aham tvam sarva papebhyo. So I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Mokshashyami masucha. Yeah. So he shall deliver, us from all the sinful reactions, and also Krishna is highlighting here, do not fear. So then we have a very nice verse from 9th chapter where Krishna promises that he will provide us, always what we lack, and he will always preserve his devotees what we have. So the shloka is Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. So the translation of this shloka goes that, but those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So on this, we also have a nice story which was, told by Prabhupada, that about an acharya called as Arjunacharya. So he was a Brahmana, and while he was, reading this shloka of Bhagavad Gita, he was surprised that why Krishna is saying, I will provide you or provide my devotees what they lack. So he was thinking, why didn't he send one of his his associates? Why Krishna himself? Why is Krishna saying this? So what he did was, because he couldn't digest that, why would Krishna be personally coming in to provide us what we lack? So he kind of put a line over that shloka. When he says aham here, yogakshemam vahami aham. So Krishna is saying, I will personally provide my devotees what they lack. So because Arjunacharya, the Brahmana, he was thinking, why would Krishna, take that trouble? He just scratched that line. And after that, he went for his, daily activities, for asking alms, outside his house. And in the back, once he left his house, his wife was visited. And why did, the Brahmana put that? Because he was really poor. His family used to survive only based on the alms he used to get from people. So once he left the house, there were 2 children who visited his house, and they met his wife. And they said that, they were carrying, quite a lot of grocery items with them, food items. And his, Brahmana's wife asked them, what do they need? And they said that this whole thing is sent by the Brahmana himself. Arjunacharya has sent this, and he has asked us to keep it in his house. So his wife was surprised that how come so much of grains all together, and she made the boys keep the stuff, and she saw certain marks on one of the boys there, on his back, and she asked him, what is this mark about? And the boy said that, your husband, he did this to us. And she was surprised that, how could he behave like that with his students? He's never so rash, So then she asked the boys to, just settle down, she would feed them, but they said that they have to go back, otherwise, her husband would be still stricter with them. So overall, later on, then Arjunacharya comes back to his house, and his wife says that, what have, you have sent so much stuff, from where did you get it? And he was surprised to see so much of grains at his home. And he said he didn't do that. And then she explained to him why, she was really angry at him, that why he behaved such with those students. And while she was explaining that, it struck him that he immediately went to his Bhagavad-Gita, and he saw, the line which he had put. That line was, it hurt Krishna so badly that his devotee is, doing that. So and that's why Krishna personally came. So he understood that because he did not, he put the line, it hurt Krishna, and Krishna himself, in fact, came in to provide what they had lost. So to help them. So that's why this verse is also one of the key verses. And for us to get to that, to be a devotee, Krishna also mentioned, what would be the qualification? What is the prerequisite? Like we do a training, we have certain prerequisite courses to complete. So what is the prerequisite? And Krishna mentions that in 4th chapter, in this shloka. Sa evayam mayate adya yoga putta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hi etad uttamam. So Krishna says here that he imparted that knowledge to Arjuna, right? Because he was his friend and also a devotee. So Krishna did not give this knowledge on the battlefield to many people, right? So there were so many Raj Rishis there. They were, such intellectual people on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but he chose Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna was a pure devotee, and also he had a relationship, which was a friend with Krishna. And in past class, we also mentioned how once you become a devotee, and we start the devotional practice, there is a purification of our heart, and we develop a relationship with Krishna. So that relationship with Krishna and being his devotee is a prerequisite. And the last is the last shloka of Bhagavad-Gita, which is 18.78. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Pato Dhanurdhara Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So wherever there is Krishna, this is what Sanjaya concludes after saying the whole Bhagavad-Gita, that wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. So yeah, these verses show how Krishna highlights as how a devotee is always in a win-win position. Yeah, the main factor in devotion is our love to Krishna and service. Yeah. Prabhupada always highlights in his purport that that it's a devotional service. So it's an active service to Krishna. Yeah. When we talk about overall the devotional service so far mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, we will also maybe just to give you an idea that for us to get into the devotional service, there are different stages in bhakti also. in this devotional service. Yeah, and it is very important for us to know, as newcomers, on what this progressive ladder is. Yeah? So these are the progressive stages of bhakti or devotional service given by Rup Goswami. Now, Rup Goswami, like we just learned about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spoke about him. So he had 6 main disciples, and Rup Goswami was one of those. Yeah? Now, why are we studying Bhagavad-Gita? We are not studying it to show it off to somebody or to become really kind of scholars, right? It's more about about pleasing to Krishna, about learning how that unconditional love to Krishna can we come to that stage? How can we come to that stage? So Rup Goswami gives these progressive stages. It starts with Shraddha. So what is Shraddha? Faith, right? This is the beginning of one's journey. Yeah, faith that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And we learned, last in introduction side of it, that how Prabhupada says that even if you don't believe fully that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at least theoretically, looking at the references to the scriptures and everything, theoretically we should accept that Krishna is the Supreme. That faith should be there, and it is the starting stage. After developing the faith, we then become interested in associating with pure devotees, right? That is sadhu sangha. Yeah, devotee association is the key. Yeah, for us to be consistent in our devotional practice. It's I'll not go this into too much detail because in further chapters we will revisit this. But just to give you a feel that there are progressive stages, and to make us also realize as where do we sit. And where do we sit? We have highlighted the Bhajan Kriya stage in different color. Why? Because most of us, we are in here. So with the association of the devotees, we then realize, how important this spiritual life is for us, and how important it is to have a spiritual master also in our life. Right? We get more sincere, dedicated towards our devotional service. So, and then, once you get into there, you then take something called as initiation, which we have mentioned here. Yeah, initiation is given by the spiritual master, and from here you start practicing the limbs of devotional life. Very dedicatedly, sincerely, like hearing, chanting, reading. So there are 9 devotional services. So we start, developing that. So thereafter, once initiated by the spiritual master, we execute make sure that execution of the regulative principles are under his orders. Yeah? So this is the stage we need to aim at from here on. And wherein the devotee starts really strictly following the do's and the don'ts, and we learn the do's and the don'ts. So before the don'ts are 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit relationship. And those are, chanting, reading, hearing, praying, remembering, serving Krishna. Yeah? So once we have, once we reach the stage, then we are freed. Anartha nivritti. That is, we are freed from the unwanted habits, which is material attachment overall. Yeah, and then we'll develop nishtha. Nishtha is like steadiness, right? Really determined, right? And once you get determined into your devotional practice, you go into the stage of ruchi. You develop the taste. You develop the taste of hearing, all these limbs of bhakti. You develop the taste of, and you relish it. Yeah. Then asakti, which is, we start getting more attached to Krishna, and then comes, with the stage of bhav, which is the gradual development of love, yeah, to Godhead, and in the end prema, which is the highest perfectional stage of it. So this love is what we have, we need to achieve, that unconditional love. Yeah? So far we have understood, Bhakt Vatsalya, how Krishna is Bhakt Vatsalya with his examples. what extent he goes to support his devotees. And for us, what are our stages so that we can also serve Krishna, with unconditional love. And these are the stages, right? So now, when Arjuna called that Bhakt Vatsalya, Achyuta, to Krishna, after that, Krishna took his chariot in between both the armies. And then Krishna says this. So, Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kurun Iti. So, sorry, Harshad Prabhuji, I think it was your...
Sure. Hare Krishna. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here.
Right. So Krishna, as soon as Arjuna, thank you, Harshad. So as soon as Arjuna asked to take the chariot, Krishna exactly placed it in front of Bhishma and Drona. Why did Krishna do this? He wanted Arjuna to become fully bewildered or fully confused, and fully shaken. And only when a warrior, having a warrior like Arjuna shaken is not easy. So Krishna, brought exactly in front of Bhishma and Drona so that Arjuna would be fully shaken, confused, and that would, have Krishna speak Bhagavad-Gita. Yeah. So I realize we are, I'll just move a bit faster maybe. So after placing the chariot, so the next shloka is where Arjuna highlights, but we think Arjuna, why did he get confused? Didn't he know before? He knew who were the warriors on the field, right? But it's like knowing and phasing, two different things, right? So Arjuna, when he phases and when he sees different grades of people on the battlefield. And who are those? Which is mentioned in this verse, 26th verse of first chapter. So, Tatra Pashyat Stitan Parthaha Pitran Athapitamaha Acharyan Matulan Putran Pautran Sakhim Tatha Swashuran Suhadrashchaiva Senayor Ubayor Api. So, Kavya ji, will you be able to read?
Yes, Hare Krishna. There Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his father-in-law and well-wishers.
Thank you, Kevin. So some of us may not be very well aware, very familiar with so much of details about Mahabharata. But I think this shlok just gives us the feel as why such a great warrior like Arjuna, he felt so weak, because he had all the grades of his friends and relatives. When he says fathers, it was Bhurishvega, he was the son of Somadatta, and so he was a fatherly figure. Grandfathers, we know Bhishma, right? Bhishma and Somadatta themselves. Acharya teachers, we know it's Drona, right? Maternal uncles, he had Shakuni and Shalya. Brothers, name it. All the Kauravas. Sons, that is the son of Duryodhana, which is Lakshmana. Grandsons is also, the grandsons of Duryodhana, which is Lakshmana. Friends like Ashwatthama. Father-in-law like Drupada. And well-wishers. Krishna is the big well-wisher, right? So he's the greatest. So Krishna himself was in the battlefield, and also Kritavarma, who was also a well-wisher. So all of them, all degrees, of his family and friends were on the battlefield, and they were about to lose their life. So that's why Arjuna felt so weak. Now coming to, Arjuna gave, after looking at all of these people, he gave 4 reasons, 5 reasons overall to not fight the battle. And 4 of which we'll be doing today, which is part of first chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. And the 5th reason will be given in the 2nd chapter. Arjuna speaks that, it is in the beginning of the 2nd chapter. So Yeah, so Arjuna, yeah, he had everything with him, but still he was bewildered, right? And why? Because this is all Krishna's game plan. In one of the verses, we saw that Krishna is also called as Rishikesh, right? He's the controller of all the senses, right? So Krishna is controlling Arjuna's senses, and he has put Arjuna deliberately into that depression through Yog Maya, which is under that illusion, right? So, and why, we see that we faced COVID for so long, right? And we see that may it be COVID with our reactions to our family, friends, or ourselves, sometimes hyper, sometimes lower, or even something like Arjuna here going under depression. What plays a key role in any circumstances we also face, like Arjuna in our life? We learned that, I think, quite in detail in many sessions, which is mind, right? So mind plays a very key role for us to keep us either strong, or it can be the one which can make us very weak. And that's why, we see nowadays why people are so much going into yoga. I have my colleagues, at my work, not outside India, who are so much, they have so much getting into yoga. They are into different things. And, we see that these yoga, basically yoga is what? The definition of yoga is to connect to Krishna. But what we see right now in today's world is that, most of these yoga institutes are focusing on maybe one or two aspects of so-called yoga. Yeah. But we will learn in Gita in further chapters that yoga in itself, when we compare what we learn in Gita versus what we see around, it's like, it's maybe not even 10% of what we see. So yoga in itself comprises of many. It's a huge thing, and these people are only projecting one or two aspects of yoga. So even then, what we learn from this is why people are going into it, because it is giving them peace, right? It is giving them that kind of satisfaction. So what we as Bhagavad Gita learners, we should understand is, if they are following just one or two bits of actually what the whole process of yoga is, then, and they are getting that level of peace or satisfaction, then if we understand and follow the whole system of yoga, what Krishna has mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, we can imagine where we would be. Yeah, we would get that ultimate happiness, right? So, so this is a table which we'll see quite often from here on, which lists 5 reasons of Arjuna why he did not want to fight. And we have mentioned the chapter 1 verses where he had asked these questions, and where did Krishna starts answering these in 2nd chapter. And we have made the reference of the shlokas where exactly Krishna answers that particular question. Yeah? So the 5 reasons which Arjuna gave was compassion, no enjoyment, fearful of sinful reactions, destruction of family traditions, and the last one, which will be covered by next week, which is indecision. So we covered these in the initial 9 sessions as well. So, and once I think I go through the shlokas, it might give you a kind of reminder as well. So the first reason which Arjuna gave was compassion towards his friends and relatives. So Arjuna uvacha drishtve mam svajanam Krishna yuyutsam samupastitam siddhanti mama gatrani mukham cha parishushyati. So Neeta Kaki, will you be able to read the English?
Yes. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the lips of my body quivering and my mouth drying up."
Thank you. So compassion, we learned this in the 9 sessions, right? That we all agree being compassionate is really good, right? And to not fight is also the right thing to do. But Arjuna was put into this situation, right? And he's right in saying that in a way, right? But he's forgetting that he's in a leadership position. And we learned this before, that because we are all in a way in a particular leadership position, right, ourselves. So we have to do the right thing. Compassion is really good, but it has to be rightly placed. Yeah. So we gave the example of a judge as well, right? If one of his relative is, the verdict, then will the judge be compassionate? Will it be right if the judge is compassionate towards, he's my relative, let me, not give him, the trial? Is that right? No. Right? Similarly, we say a teacher, if the teacher is compassionate towards one of her students, and she gives off the question papers, is that right compassion? No, right? So being compassion is really a great quality, to have, but it should be rightly placed in the right situation, right? In the right place. So each one of us, we are also in a way in a leadership position, right? So we have to make our, right decisions, right? So being compassionate is right, but like I said, it has to be rightly placed. And it is Arjuna being so humble, so compassionate, it is one of the key qualities of devotees. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is highlighted that it states that devotees of Krishna, devotees have all good qualities, such good qualities that they can also be found in godly persons or demigods. Whereas a non-devotee like Duryodhana, however advanced they might be with their material opulences or material qualifications, they lack any quality, any godly quality. So going further, then second reason what Arjuna gave not to fight was no enjoyment. Even if he gets the victory. Na cha shreyo anupashyami hatva swajanam ahave na kangshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam sukhani cha. So Reshma ji, will you be able to read?
Yes, ma'am. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness.
Yeah, thank you, Reshma. So it is, when we read this from Arjuna, it seems so valid, right? How can he, what good can come from killing his own family and friends? How can we can also not think of enjoying something if we kill our relatives or friends? We all work hard so much. Why? Because we want to keep our family members happy, and our relatives, friends, everybody happy. So what is wrong in Arjuna thinking the same? Because he's, again, it comes, channelizes to him being in that leadership position, right? He's thinking of his own enjoyment. But in that position at the war as a Kshatriya, he has to think for his kingdom, not about self-enjoyment. And we know that as leaders, the leaders means what? It's a sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. Leaders need sacrifice. Leaders cannot think of their own enjoyment, right? So something like in COVID, if the doctors would think that, okay, it's risky for me, I would not be able to, enjoy with my family, so let me not go to treat. Is that fair? No, they are in a leadership position in the society, so they have to act accordingly, without any kind of sacrifice. Without sacrifice, nobody can be a leader. Yeah. So, and Arjuna is in a leadership position. Yeah? So, and like I said, all of us are in some kind of leadership position, right? Just imagine if a mother thinks, we also gave this example in past. A mother thinks that, oh, it's summer now. It's, I feel too hot to cook. So I cannot enjoy my cooking. So let me not cook. Is that right? No. Same thing with father, if he says that, I want to just sit home and enjoy. I don't want to go out, and struggle. Is that right? No, they are in a leadership position at home, right? There are dependents on them. So they have to take, they have to not think about their enjoyment. They have to think about, similar to Arjuna, he has to think, at the public level, not at the personal level. So the third reason given was fearful of sinful reactions. And Shivani Kaki, will you be able to?
Yeah. Fearful of sinful reactions. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? O Janardana, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with the friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin?
Thank you. So, we did this as well, right? Before that, Arjuna is thinking if he fights the battle, it will be sinful. Whereas, if he doesn't, then it will be sinful, right? Because he is fighting the battle against, people like Duryodhana, who have done all the 6 kind of aggressors which are mentioned in our scriptures. I mentioned this before that, our scriptures mention that there are 6 types of aggressors. And if a person does even one of these types of aggressors, then they should be immediately killed. That's what our scriptures say, right? So Duryodhana did, just not one, but all the 6 kind of aggressors, like poisoning someone, setting the house on fire for someone, and attacking with deadly weapons, and looking at the others, property, and kidnapping others' wife. So he kind of did all the 6. So he deserved, right? He, as per the scriptures, if we go as per scriptures also, such a person should be immediately killed. Otherwise, it will be sinful, right? So we, one thing here from this is that we understand that what important point which Prabhupada has highlighted in the purport is that Arjuna is actually comparing, so we Artha Shastra and Dharma Shastra. So Artha Shastra talks about politics and sociology, whereas Dharma Shastra talks about religion, or how our behavior should be, right? So Arjuna was actually trying to say that this, all these political steps, it is not as important. We have to, Dharma Shastra, is higher than Artha Shastra, is superior than Artha Shastra. So he wanted to be saintly. He wanted to follow dharma, non-violence, and he wanted to be saintly over there and not fight. Right? But Krishna in 2nd chapters explains to this question, while he's answering to this question, that higher than Dharma Shastra is something called as Jnana Shastra. Jnana Shastra. And Jnana of what? The transcendental knowledge. And we will go to that, but just I wanted to highlight here, and we'll come back to this when we reach this. So the 4th and the last reason what is covered in the 1st chapter is Arjuna highlights that with this war, there will be destruction of family traditions. So kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam krishnam adharmo abhibhavati udha. So Usha Kaki, will you be able to?
Yes, Hare Krishna. The destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family traditional of vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion.
Thank you. So till last verse, we see that the first 3 reasons Arjuna was more focusing on himself, his limitations. Now he's talking at a wider spectrum, yeah, that it is going to impact the whole society at large. There will be destruction of dynasty. Yeah. Why? Because all the powerful people were at the battlefield, right? Everybody was there. And Arjuna's point is valid, that to protect dharma, we are assembled in this field. And if all of them will be killed, then what will happen, for the dynasty? Yeah. So we need to just understand here that with an example that when we have, say, in the corporate world, we have a project manager managing a project. Yeah. Should we be in anxiety when it comes to managing and planning things? No, because we should know that the project manager is responsible for planning and managing that, right? We don't need to be worried. We have to just do what is being asked, right, from our end. Yeah. And similarly, if we take our day-to-day life, then have we ever questioned in our childhood, or does our children ever question us that, mommy, will you be able to provide us food tomorrow? No, because they don't need to worry about it. The higher end, someone else is taking care of them. So similarly, in presence of Krishna, Arjuna doesn't need to worry, because Krishna is the manager of the whole creation. So why should he worry? He shouldn't. And similarly, if in case on the other side of the coin, if you see that if Duryodhana was ruling the kingdom, do we really think the culture and the religion would be followed in that kingdom? No, the tradition would anyhow be vanquished, right? So further moving, just highlighting Krishna in Bhagavatam, it is highlighted that for a devotee, there is no obligation, no material duty or obligation. And this is the shloka from 11th canto. So devarshi bhutapta nrinam titnam na kinkaro nayam vridacha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihatte katum. So, O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefather who has passed away, since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. One who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Here it is just highlighted very clearly that a devotee who is in the shelter of Krishna has no obligation towards demigods, sages, and mankind. So why? Because it's like, if we are serving Krishna, we are watering the root of a tree. If we water the root of the tree, the nutrition will automatically go to the different branches and roots of the tree, right? And the tree will blossom. So we don't need to water separately the branches, separately the leaves, the flowers of the tree. So similarly, if we serve Krishna, then we don't need to worry to serve others. It is like serving the root. Yeah. So it's very important, this shloka where it highlights that a devotee is above the rules and regulations, of overall Varnashram. Yeah. So this is overall, here Arjuna also highlights that by the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community project and family welfare are devastated. O Krishna, maintainer of people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family's tradition are destroyed dwell always in hell. So Arjuna is continuing with the prior verse, where destruction of dynasty, that it will not be, it will not be right. All evil would occur. Yeah, and he highlights that he is not saying, haphazardly. He is highlighting that he has heard this from the disciplic succession. Yeah? So in the end, Sanjaya he concludes the first chapter with this shloka. Sanjaya uvacha evam uttarjuna sankhe rathopasta upavishat visrajya sharam chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. So Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrow, sat down on the chariot, mind overwhelmed with grief. So Arjuna was fully afflicted with lamentation, and he set aside his bow and arrow, and yeah, he didn't want to fight. So with that, yeah, so we this is the last slide for the session. So we see how Arjuna, in the went into depression in the battlefield, right? And again we highlight that Arjuna is not a common person. He's someone who who really defeated the demigods. He also could travel all the three worlds, the upper planets, the lower planets. He had that, and he also traveled to we read in Bhagavatam that he also traveled to Mahavishnu with Krishna. So he's a great personality, yeah, but he's in depression. So someone like Arjuna, who is so strong, valorous, if he can go into confusion, then we can imagine, why do we go on day-to-day life as well? So, and one key thing here is such a kind, soft-hearted, and non-violent person is fit for self-realization. Yeah? So he's not weak. Yeah, it's not his weakness; it's his soft-heartedness. Yeah, that's what Prabhupada highlights. So with that, I will stop the session today, and maybe we have 15 minutes. We can open the floor for any questions. Okay, I take that as a no then. I would just like to maybe take last few minutes just to, request everybody. I hope, all of you must have started chanting by now. And when it comes to this, we have also forwarded the group of the morning chanting session. So any of you who are interested, feel free to join in. You may as well join in just for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, that's fine, but it will give you a good vibe, from the experience what we have had across the devotee associations. Yeah. And also the other thing was, if maybe from next time we can also start reciting in this forum, we can start trying to recite the Sanskrit version of the shlokas. And I would just like to tell you that in the Bhagavad-Gita as it is book, I think most of you have it now. In the last section, you can see how each letter or each word is pronounced, in the which is clearly given there. So it might be a good platform for us to get acquainted with how to read shlokas, right? It will be, we are all in the same flow, right? So maybe we can start. And you can start looking at that so that you will be able to follow how to read this English versions. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us. Yeah. So I see Hari Krishna ji raising hand. So did you have any question?
Yeah, Mataji, I have joined. I have been added to the morning chanting group.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting the link. I'm not getting the link to to join the group daily in morning.
Right. Are you asking the link? Yeah, to join the morning group.
I am already in the morning group.
Yeah.
Looking for the link. Yeah. So in the same group, WhatsApp group, in the subject, in the
Description.
Yeah. So in the description, you will be able to find the link. So if you, yeah, just give it a try, and if not, we can definitely support your plan.
Okay. And here,
so Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this link we can post it again
as a message also. But this link will remain same until somewhere in mid of April, right? And thereafter we'll change it. So it is in the description of that, and we will post it also again, so that it is handy to everyone.
Yeah. Then daily you have to join that group, right?
Yes. Daily you can click on it and join with the same link.
Okay. Prabhu.
Yeah.
And one more thing is, here when we are referring to serve Krishna means, is it like you are referring to knowledge or consciousness or this transcendental knowledge?
Can you please repeat, like, what is the question? I understood, like, can you please repeat it?
Referring Krishna means he is not a person, or he is not something something which you can describe in terms of how we describe humans or some humans or some gods or like that.
Right.
Okay. Is it like transcendental knowledge you refer to Krishna when we
Okay.
describe?
Good, very good question. See, your understanding is correct that Krishna is not same as we are. For example, our body is made up of bones, muscles, skin, blood, mucus, right? Well, Krishna's body is Satchitananda Vigraha. So it is mentioned, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinde Sarva Karana. His body is different from our body. His body is it's totally spiritual. In our body, we have two components. We ourselves are soul, but we have a body also, which is made up of 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, then mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? And the soul, the nature of the soul is spiritual. It's totally spiritual. But Krishna's body is not made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, or mind, intelligence, false ego. Krishna's body is fully spiritual. Now, just to give you an example of how his body is different from our body. When in Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned that Brahmaji, just to show to entire humanity that how Krishna's body is different from our body, Brahmaji took away his cows and calves from Vrindavan. And when he took away his cows and calves, what did Krishna do? Does anyone know?
Yeah, he kind of he's available in every form, like
Yes.
to Ajay, cow, calf, or a
Yes.
father,
Yes.
mother. Yeah.
Yes. So when Brahmaji took away the calves and his cowherd friends, Krishna understood that this is Brahma's trick. So now when Krishna has to go back home, right, to go back to Vrindavan from the forest, he expended himself to all the calves and his friends, right? So he expended himself. And then, although all the friends and all the calves at that time were Krishna, but they looked as if they were same calf or same friends, as they were before Brahmaji took. And when Brahmaji came back to see, he saw, how come I have placed them in some cave, and how come they are there? And then Krishna revealed that how he has expended, and all these calves and his friends were shown to Brahma as four-handed Vishnu. So Krishna expended himself into his cowherd friends and calves as four-handed Vishnus. From his body came all these four-handed Vishnus, right? We also saw another pastime again from Bhagavatam, that how when Mother Yashoda wanted to chastise Krishna, that, hey, how come, why you have eaten mud? And Krishna said, no, I have not eaten. Then Mother Yashoda said, okay, open your mouth and show me. And okay, Krishna said, why not? And then little Krishna opened his mouth. And does anyone know what did Mother Yashoda saw in his mouth? The entire universe. Yeah, Brahmanda, the entire universe, right? So we understand that Krishna's body is different from our body. Krishna's body is Satchit Ananda. It is made up of bliss, knowledge, and it is eternal, right? So it's not made up of bone, muscles, and all. His body is totally spiritual. There is no matter in the body, which is why he's Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is source of all incarnations. He is source of everything. He is source of the spiritual world and the material world, right? So when we refer to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose body is Satchitananda Vigraha. The same Krishna, who played in Vrindavan, who came down, who was, in Dwarka, who was in Battle of Kurukshetra. He's the same Krishna who is Satchitananda. The same Krishna came. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyudanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamayam paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma sanstapana arthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Right? So Krishna said that whenever and wherever there is decline of religious principles, at that time I will come. I will come to protect my devotees, annihilate the demons, and to reestablish the principles of religion. Right? So Krishna says that I come whenever there is need. And the most recently, what we heard from Nikita Mataji is the Supreme Personality Krishna came as Srimad Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? As a Channa avatar. He came in the form of his own devotee to spread the Yuga Dharma, which was to spread the chanting of the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Right? So does that answer your question, Hare Krishna Prabhu?
Yeah, it answers, but one doubt I have, like,
yes,
whenever I, like, one thing goes in my mind always.
Yeah.
What is the thing? Like when we relate something, like we say that everything is about energy.
Yes.
Okay. From this, even this matter is a form of energy, and everything is formed from energy only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can we consider that Krishna as that energy is Krishna?
Those energies. So I would request you, those energies are of Krishna's. Krishna is the source of spiritual energy and the material energy.
Yeah.
So if there is energy, then there has to be energetic, right?
Yeah.
All these, there should be a source of energy, right?
Yes. Yes, sure.
So if you see, for example,
that source itself I consider as Krishna.
Yes.
That energy is itself. That energy itself, is Krishna.
No. See, Krishna is Krishna, and all the. See, let me explain you. We have to refer to scriptures. What does scripture say about energy and energetic? So in that case, we'll have to look in Bhagavad-Gita 7.4, 7.5, 7.6. Right? 7.4 says that Krishna is the source. All the 8 material elements, Krishna is the source. Right? Yeah. And then 7.5 says Krishna is not only source. Krishna is also source of the superior energy, which is in form of living entity. Then in 7.6, it says Krishna is source of everything, of all the spiritual and the thing. And then 7.7 says Mata Parataram Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. That Krishna is, everything is resting on Krishna as if pearls, the garland of pearl is supported by the string. Similarly, everything in this world, all the energy, both material, spiritual energy, is dependent on Krishna. Krishna is the source. Yeah. So when we, because there is a conception here. You are right, Hare Krishna Prabhu, that there is a conception here that a group of spiritualists think that the highest form of realizing the Godhead, Godhood, is the energy. But that is the partial understanding. For example, if you remember, we went through this understanding in our introductory sessions also, where Nikita Mataji explained with the example of sun, that if you see sunshine, right? But sunshine are coming from where? From sun. And from far off, we see that sun is like a disk, right? But we also know that sun is a planet, and planet is ruled by Vivaswan, right? So these are three different level of understanding: sunlight, sun, and sun as a planet which is ruled by Vivaswan. Similarly, the absolute truth is understood in three level of understanding: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman is that Krishna's energy, the energy flowing from Krishna's body, which is Brahman, which is spread everywhere. The second level of realization is Paramatma. Paramatma is the super soul, which is in everyone's heart, even in the heart of any animal or in every atom, right? And then the highest form of realization of absolute truth is Bhagavan. So that again we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, that there are three levels of realization of absolute truth. So when we are referring to Krishna, we are referring to the supreme personality of Godhead. It is not supreme energy. It is the supreme person, Krishna, that we are referring when we are saying Krishna. While all the energies, yes, also, can be referred as Krishna. Everything can be referred as Krishna, in a sense that, Krishna is the source of everything.
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu.
And there is also that when we talk about Krishna's name, right? Now, that verse is starting, how do we start that verse? Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shiddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnam Nama Namina. That Nama Chintamani Krishna, that Krishna's name is like Chintamani, it's like a touchstone. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, that name is full of consciousness and full of rasa, full of bliss, and the personality is also in that name. So Krishna's name is not different from Krishna. Purna Shuddho Nityamukto. It is fully pure. It can never be contaminated. And it is always liberated. Abhinnam Nama Naminaha. There is no difference between Krishna and his name. Which is why when we chant Krishna, it's as good as being with Krishna. Which is why there is so much of focus on chanting Krishna's name, right? So everything, actually as we move forward in Bhagavad-Gita, these concepts will be more and more clearer, because you will see that how Krishna himself is explaining these concepts in Bhagavad-Gita itself. But for now, you can understand that when we talk about Krishna, we are talking about Krishna, the person, the supreme person who is transcendental, whose personality is different from our personality.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. But thanks for asking, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Like, I see that always you ask very, very important questions, which would not only help you, but also other, who are hearing them. So thank you very much for asking these.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Good and very deep questions. Any other question?